The Shed is my latest feature film. It's a horror movie about a juvenile delinquent named Stan who finds himself in the unusual position of having a vampire trapped inside his tool shed. And he wants to defeat this monster, and his best friend Dahmer, who's been attacked by bullies and abused all his life, has other sinister plans for the use of the creature. To get my main actors prepared for their roles, I actually made each one of them a different mixtape. That would be their character's mixtape. So I made Stan one, Roxy one, and Dahmer one. And I sent them to them while we were shooting so that they could kind of listen to them. And it was not only music that was relevant to the time frame that the Shed takes place in, it was also music relevant to their characters. So it was like, this is the music Stan would be listening to, and I tried to select songs that were relevant to Stan's situation. Same thing for Roxy. This is the music Roxy listens to, and it defines her character and gives some emotion to it. And I sent them to them during production, and you would have to ask them if that was helpful, but I believe it was. I think it was a good idea. No, there was no real life Dahmer to my Stan. I think one way or another, every character is some sort of faction of myself, including Marble, including Roxy. I try to take feelings that I have felt as a human being, not to sound philosophical, but I was having trouble coming up with sort of the high school emotional level. As an adult, I am obviously far more emotionally mature than I was when I was 17, and I was having a hard time getting back into that sort of mindset. So as I started rereading my journals from that time in my life, it gave me a lot of insight into how much deeper high school kids I think than adults give them credit for, and how much that those feelings are felt probably even deeper when they're younger as opposed to we feel them as adults. So reading my old journals gave me the depth of how hard small emotions affect you as a high schooler, as somebody in youth. And there were emotions that I displayed that I was like, oh, that's very Dahmer. And I was like, also, that's very Stan. So it just kind of put me back in touch with that very specific period in life that I think we all can connect with, because I think high school is an unusual social experiment that we all go through, and I think one way or another we all connect to that. And I think just reading the old journals helped with that. I don't have a specific year that it is, but I could say it's probably anywhere between 1986 and 1992. I think the absence of technology, you could look at it as maybe laziness on my part, because I find that when your characters in a horror movie have a cell phone or they have this incredible technology, it makes it harder to get them into trouble. I think cell phones get us out of trouble way too easily, theoretically. You can very easily call the cops or call for help. And the horror movies that do use cell phones, they have to come up with a way to kill the cell phone, right? Which is either the battery's dead or out of service or I dropped it. And there's not a lot more else you can do with that. So I don't want to I don't want to have to do that. That's number one. Number two, I like the idea of setting it in a sort of late 80s, early 90s kind of vibe, because I think the opportunity for neglect, which is largely what this film is about in many ways, is a lot stronger than it is now. I don't think you're seeing as many latchkey kids, so to speak, in this day and age, and that's something that's sort of important to me about who these characters are and why they are the way they are. And the other thing, in wanting to sort of leave the time frame somewhat ambiguous without saying, here we are in 1991 or whatever it may be, I wanted to sort of leave it in a way where there's a lot of analog technology, which I think stylistically just looks cool. And I think also one could conceivably say, oh, this could be 2019, And maybe these kids just don't have that stuff. You know what I mean? Not everybody has a cell phone necessarily. Not everybody has an iPod. So, truth be told, I do in my mind think it's sort of an early '90s, late '80s thing. But those are basically my reasons for keeping the technology out. I think it helps you keep your characters in trouble, and thematically for this particular film, it lent itself to that style and time. I think I wanted to tell a better story with this, and I don't think that makes it not a horror film. But I didn't want to specifically say this is a vampire film, because the vampire is an aspect of the story, but truly it's not the whole of the story. So I wanted this to certainly have more emphasis on character and drama, as opposed to just a vampire flick, so to speak. So the word vampire is only used in the film once, actually, and it's on the television when the announcer says, "We're now returned to Revenge of the Vampire." That's the only time the word vampire is used in the script. Even though we basically, us horror fans, we know what we're dealing with. But I think I wanted to stay more away from boxing it into a vampire film, so to speak, and still be a horror film, still be a dark film, but really have it revolving more around character and story. It's certainly the implied intention of the film. It's a person being pushed to their limit, basically, and taking revenge and feeling like they have no other way out other than to be destructive. So I don't have an issue with that, and I'm kind of fascinated with that subject. I think it's horrifying, and it's something that we see in our society really too often. But ever since the first school shooting happened, Columbine, I just was like, I'm just very interested in that case and that mindset, and I think putting it into the light of a horror movie allows us to sort of look at it and think about it with a little less anxiety. It makes the conversation a little easier, maybe. You know what I mean? Because we're dealing with a vampire and not a actual school shooter. But certainly, I would hope the implication behind it carries a little weight, and people kind of look at that and think about it. It's funny you say that, because a lot of people bring it up that it really bothers them, and I guess it was supposed to do that. You know what I mean? I think a reviewer wrote something that I saw that said that it was lazy or something like that, or I don't remember exactly, but they had a negative response to it, and that's fine. Yeah, I think killing the dog is just a good shock moment. I think people get more upset when you kill an animal as opposed to killing a person. We're very used to people being killed on screen, so yeah, a lot of people don't like it, but I don't really care. It was not easy to shoot. In fact, of the entire production, that was the single biggest scene I was most afraid to shoot. My stomach was in knots over it, honestly, for weeks. And then the day of, I woke up that morning and I was like, all right, we're doing this. And it was really difficult to shoot, because not so much of the style of the shooting, but it's very intense. We needed incredibly intense performances from our actors. It was Cody Castro's, I think it was his first day on set, and I hadn't actually worked with him prior to that. So he killed it in the audition, and I wanted him to bring that intense ruckus on the actual day. So there was a combination of factors, as you pointed out, having the sun at the right angle while we were doing Cody's coverage, Cody who plays Dahmer, and getting those performances. And there's a lot of camera movements that I wanted to create the intensity of the moment and keep everybody on their edge. And yeah, it was just really, I think it's everything to me, that scene it's the most critical scene in the film, and it's like everything that a director does, I think, is in that scene. It's getting performance from the actors. It's conveying the emotion of the scene through movement and what you're showing. It's conveying the atmosphere of the scene through lighting and time of day, etc. And I needed all of those things to work perfectly, in my opinion, for the scene to work. And fortunately, I had incredible actors to work with that fully understood the gravity of the scene, were able to bring their performances time and time again. Each time we ran through it, they brought the exact same level of intensity. I had an incredible crew that also knew the importance of the scene and the importance of the timing of the day, because it's very easy to lose daylight in production. So I was just really fortunate to have this incredible team under me that completely understood the greater vision.
People judge you here, not for who you are, but who you hang out with.
So you're gonna ask Roxy out again, or are you just gonna spank one out to her every day till graduation?
If it makes my life a little easier to hang out with one crowd over the other, then I'm gonna do what I have to do till I'm out of here.
Remember one thing, though.
You're having my sloppy seconds. I'm telling you, man, one day they're gonna go too far and they're gonna be sorry.
I thought I could handle this all on my own.
Hey, what happened to your face?
I have to tell you something. There's something in the shed. It wants to kill me.
Are you kidding me?
Dharma, I swear to God, there's something inside.
All right, then show me. Let me see your pet monster.
Dude, don't you see what this means? We can use this. This is power.
What?
Nobody's ever gonna mess with us again.
Are you crazy?
Think about it. It's not murder, it's payback.
This is not a gift or a weapon. This is dangerous.
I'm supposed to be your best friend. Look what they did to me this time.
What the hell is happening?
Dharma, what's inside that shed?
Get in.
What's inside that shed?